Okay, so welcome back to this channel. So in this video we will discuss about that how we can integrate Redux Toolkit in our Next.js 13 application. Okay, so if you don't know about the Next.js 13, I have made a detailed video already on Next.js 13. If you want to watch that, I will add the link in the description of this video. Okay, so in this video we will see that how we can integrate a Redux Toolkit in our Next.js 13 application. So let's first of all create a new next application here. I type here npx create dash next dash app at latest and type here dot. That will give the name of the folder to this project. So I press enter here. So would you like to use TypeScript? I type here yes, no. And would you like to use source directory with this project? So if you use the source directory, it will put your pages directory and also the app directory, which is the new directory inside the source folder. So I will type here no. And would you like to use the experimenter app directory? I type here yes. Okay, so the project is created successfully. Now let's install our packages. First of all, I need to install here the React Redux. So I type here React Redux, then you have to install the Redux Toolkit. So type here at redux.js slash toolkit dash just save. Let's install these packages. Okay, so now our packages are installed successfully and we have our app directory right here. Okay, so first of all, we have to create our store. We know that whenever we integrate the Redux, you have to create store for that. And for that, I create a new folder in the root with the name store and create a new file here that is store.ts. Okay, now in here, first of all, I want to make my store. So I will import here the configure store from Redux Toolkit, and then I will simply type here export const function. I call it make store. Okay, and then sorry, I will remove here this const, and then here I will simply return the configured store. In that we have to pass some options. First of all, we have to pass here the reducer. So we will add our reducer later. So in this way it will make the store. Now we have to simply call this make store. So I type here export const store. We also exported, and then I type here make store. Okay, so now it will call this function and configure our store that contains the reducer. Okay, and also we have to export two types here that we have to use. So export type, which is the root state, and then return type. In that I will type here the type of this store dot get state. Oops, get state. We need here root state, and also we need here one more type for the app dispatch, because we have to use dispatch. So we have to also give the type to that. So for that I type here export type app dispatch, and I will discuss that again in a minute. That is type of the store dot dispatch. Okay, so this is our simple store.ts, in which you have simply create a function that will configure the store. We will pass our reducer later, and then we will simply export the store. We will export our two types, the root state and the app dispatch, that we will use in a minute. Okay, so now we have successfully created our store, and now we need to create our slice. So for that I create a new folder here that is called slices. So if you don't know what is slice, a slice is simply a Redux code that relates to a specific set of data or actions in our store. So it is basically simply a code that specifies the actions in our store. So for that I will simply close this one, create a new slice here that is the user slice. Okay, so user slice.ts. So in here, first of all, I need to create this slice. Okay, so I import here the create slice from the Redux Toolkit. I will import that, and then I will simply type here const user slice is equal to create slice, and in that we have to pass here some options. First of all, the name. So name is going to be users, and then I have to pass here the initial state. Okay, so for that I have to create the initial state actually. So I simply type here const initial state, which is this one. Okay, and I type here an empty object, and then I need to create here, pass here the reducer that I want to create. So reducers, I type here empty object. So now in this video, what I will do is I will fetch some data from a fake API. I will fetch some users, then I will put that users in the state and then fetch the user in our component. Okay, so how we can do that? And now for that I will use a function that is the create async thunk, which is the function from the Redux toolkit. So whenever we want to perform any asynchronous task, we use create async thunk in our slice. Okay, so create async slice take two parameters. First of all, the name of the thunk, and then the callback. So for that, I simply type here export const the fetch users. This is the name of this thunk. So fetch users, and I will call create async thunk, and again we have to pass here two options. First of all, the name. So the convention is that first of all we'll put name of the slice, which is the users in this case, then slash the task that we want to perform. So we want to get all users, and then we have to pass here a callback function. Okay, that give us access to the thunk API, and then in that I have to send the request to that API to get my data. So I will use here simple fetch API. So const response is equal to await fetch. In the fetch I will pass here the URL. Okay, I will put that in a minute. Then I will simply type here const data is equal to await response dot JSON, and then I will simply return from here the data. Okay, so in this case it will return a bunch of an array of users. So in this way we can use the create async thunk. Again, whenever we want to perform some asynchronous task in our slice, we use create async thunk, and it is recommended in the documentation. Alright, so now we are getting our data with the fetch users. Now in the initial state we want an array of an empty array with the name entities. So entities is going to be an empty array. Okay, so that is entities. Now we are not going to use reducers in this video. We will use something called extra reducers. So extra reducers are also reducer but with some enhancements, and it has more options that we can use to handle our state. Okay, so let me show you how it can help us. So for that I will simply type here after reducers the extra reducers. Okay, so in that we will get access to the builder. Okay, and then in that we can basically write our code for the extra reducers. So first of all we will add here builder dot add case. So we will add a case that whenever fetch users dot fulfilled, then we need to put our data in the state. So we will get access to here the state and then the action. I know that this is a bit confusing, but this is how it will work. And then in that we have to simply set the data in the state. So we will set that state dot entities dot push. We will push here the action dot payload. So we will get our user in the action dot payload. So I will simply spread that here. So dot 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 action dot payload. Okay, and we have to type here argument of type any. Let me put here type. You can also create an interface for that. I put here as any. Okay, we simply create a slice, pass in the name, the initial state that contains the entities with an empty array. Then we pass here reducers. Now in this video we are using extra reducer. So extra reducer is also reducer with some advanced options. So in that we can basically simply add the reducers for different action types here. For example, we check that if this fetch user dot fulfilled, this means that the data fetching is completed, then we simply push the data or the users in the state in the entities array. Okay, in the same way we have different here we have different action types like fulfilled or pending. If you want to add some loading while data is being fetched, we will add that also. So in this way we can add different cases on different action types. Now you can also add here simple reducers. For example, if I type here increment, and I will also get access to the state here, then in that you can simply set the state. For example, I type here state. If I have here a value like this, I can simply type here like state dot value plus plus. Okay, so whenever you dispatch this function, which is the increment, it will basically increase the value of this value variable in the state. So you can also add reducers like this in your state. Okay, so we have to use here extra reducers, so I simply remove this one because this is pretty simple. I hope that you know about these reducers. So now we have here our entire code. Let's put here the actual URL. So I will use this fake JSON API, and that is this /users, and I have put here limit of 3 for the 3 users. Let's put it here 5. So I will use this API. I simply copy that from here, go back, and I put that here. Okay, so now we simply have to dispatch this fetch users that will send the request to this API, get the data, return the data. And in the extra users, we have added a case when this fetch users is fulfilled. This means that our data fetching is completed. Then we will simply push our data in the entities array in this state. Okay, and then we also have to export here, export default, the user slice dot reducer, because we have to also add that in our store. So I simply save this one. Now let's go to the store.ts and add that here. So I simply type here import the user reducer, import the user reducer from dot slash slices slash the user slice, and oh, we have to put this file in this slices like this. Okay, so now I type here user in the state, and the reducer is going to be user reducer like this. Simply save this one, and now let's go to our component and test it out. So I simply, first of all, we have to add the store. So for that, I go to the app, create here a new file that is provider.tsx. So in that I will simply import the provider from React Redux. Okay, and then we have to import our store that we have created. So I will import the store from /store/store. Okay, then I will export here a function with the name, let's call it providers. In that we have here the children. Okay, then I will simply type here return provider. Okay, and we have to pass here children. Okay, and for the value I simply type here store, that is going to be store. Okay, and for its type I simply type here that children, that is going to be react node like this. And now we have created here our provider, in which we simply add the store, and we will pass here the children. And now we have to use this provider. For that I simply go to my layout.tsx, and here I will remove this comment. I will simply import here the providers from /provider. Okay, so now we have to wrap this children inside the providers. So I add here providers and put the children inside that. Now we will pass this children inside the providers that will come here, and we will wrap the children or all the application in our store like this. Okay, so in this way we can integrate our store. So now we have added the providers, and now let's actually test it. For that I simply go to the page.tsx, and let me remove here this entire code and put here a simple div tag. Okay, I will remove this one, and I think so I will remove all this from here. So now in here I will simply first of all type here use client, because I have to use here the use effect. So I also have to actually add that here in the providers.tsx, because this is also a client side component, not a server component. Okay, and then I will simply import here the use selector from React Redux, and also import here the use dispatch. Okay, and then I need to import here the fetch users that I have created in my slice. So I type here fetch users from the user slice, and then I have to import here the let me put it to the top. I will import here React, then I have to use here the use effect. I will import that from React. Okay, and now let's use that. First of all, I type here const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. Okay, and then I type here use effect, and in here I will simply dispatch the fetch users, that will fetch the user, and then I will pass in here the empty array, which is a dependency array. Okay, so I have okay, so argument of async function is not assignable to parameter of type action any, and to solve that I add here the app dispatch that I have created in my store.ts. So I will add that here, so now it will solve the issue. Okay, so now I have dispatched the fetch users on in the use effect. Now I need to get the users from the state. So for that I simply type here const entities, and I need to use here the use selector. The use selector I will type here that the state, and the type is going to be the root state that we have created in our store again, and then here I will simply select from the state dot user. Okay, remember we have typed here in the store user, so you have to get the entities from the state dot user. So let me log here the entities. So log entities like this, and I type here hello. Simply save it. Now let's run our project. So I type here npm run dev. Okay, so I will close this file and go to my Chrome, and I type here localhost port 3000. So I get here hello, and if I go to the inspect on the console, I have here an array of 5 users, but you can see that here we have an issue that it is adding 2 times here. So the first, you can see that 1 2 3 4 5, and then 1 2 3 4 5, and this is because the use effect is called 2 times. So this is a default behavior when we have the React strict mode on, and to avoid that what we can do is we can simply go back, and here I will import here the use effect. Now there can be multiple ways of handling that, so this is a simple one. I import here useref, and then I will simply type here const useref is equal to useref. I type here false. Okay, then I will simply type here that if useref dot current is equal to false, then we will simply dispatch the load user, and when the component unmounts we will simply type here that user ref dot current is equal to true. So in this way it will run only use effect will run 2 times, but when it will come to this check, first time it is false, so it will run this one, and next time it is going to be true, so it will not dispatch the user again. Okay, so I simply save it now, and now if I go back and reload this page, you can see that now we are getting only array of 5 results with the 5 users. Okay, so this means that we are getting the users from the state. Okay, so I will simply go back and I remove these entities from here, and I will type here that if entities dot map, and for each user which is going to be any, so I will type here this. Okay, so in here I will simply type here h3 tag, and I type here the user dot name, and I give here the key which is going to be user dot id. Okay, simply save this one, and now if I go back, and you can see that we are getting here the 5 name of the users. So now we are getting our data from the state, and now we can also check the loading if we want. For example, if I go back to my user slice here, I can also add one more case, that if I copy it from here and I put that here, I check that if the fetch users is dot pending, this means that data is not being fetched. Then I will simply set here the loading. So store dot loading is going to be true, and we have to add here the loading in the initial state. So by default the loading is going to be false, so we will set the loading to true, and once data is fetched we will again set the loading to false. Okay, so now I can get this loading from the state, so I can simply get access to here the loading. And if I log here the loading, simply save this one, and now if I go back, go to the inspect on the console, you can see that first of all the loading is false, then it become true because data is being fetched, and then we have here loading false again. So in this way you can also handle the loading part. And now if I go back, if I put here that if it is loading, then I will simply display here our h1 with loading, and else I will. And now if I go back, reload this page, you will see here loading and then the name of the users. If I reload it again, loading and then the users. So in this way you can also handle different states like loading and when it is fulfilled and others. And let me show you a quick example with the normal reducer. If I simply close this one, close this provider, and go in the user slice, and let's type here a value, I call it 10, and here I add the increment, then I have access to here to the state. Then let's type here state dot value plus plus. Okay, so it would increment the value in the state. If I simply save it, now if I go to this page, and here I can access I also have to export that. So I type here export const the increment, and we have to get it from the user slice dot actions. So I go to my page.js, and here I will import it from the increment, and then I add here a button. Let me add here. Okay, so now button I will type here click on me, and then I'll add here on click. Okay, so on click I want to dispatch, so dispatch the increment like this. Okay, and also I will get the value of the count. Okay, and I will display that here. So now if I go back and if I reload this page, you will see here that we get here the default. We didn't get here any value, so we have here the count. Oh, that is actually the value. So I type here value, simply save it, and now if I go back and now if I click on here, click on me, you can see that the value is incrementing here. So in this way you can also use the normal reducer like this. Okay, so I hope that you understand what we have discussed in this video. If you have any question, you can definitely ask in the comment section. I will reply there. And also if you want to check out my Udemy courses, the link is also in the description of this video. And also you can find the source code of this video in the description of this video as well. Okay, so if you have any question, make sure to post that in the comment section, and make sure to like this video if you got something from this video. So I will see you in the next lecture.